Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is October 28, 2024, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, we're watching Tesla holding on to its gains after that massive surge of 20% last week. Now looking at today's major economic events, nothing big scheduled for today. However, we do have corporate earnings for McDonald's. Now looking at the markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, we're watching the Japanese yen slide versus US dollar. And as we shift over to the indices, it's really mixed. We're watching the Dow Jones sell off while the NASDAQ gets a bounce. Now looking at commodities, after getting a nice surge last week, natural gas sticking on its resistance level and oil retracing. Now looking at the stocks, are really wavering ahead of the big week ahead, not to mention next week's big U.S. elections. Now lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin holding on to its upper range and still unchanged. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go with the Japanese yen. Now this is what I'm talking about. We pushed a little bit higher the 30-day moving average. That is some important news over there. And it's at 153.22. Now I'm not celebrating. I'm not saying that we're going to go back to this 160-ish level anytime soon, but it is pushing its higher limit here. And that's really important because this is above its 50% retracement. Now we had from 160 down to 140. And I would have thought it would have gone up to 150, 151 top, and now it's pushing above 152. That's an important comeback for the dollar vis-a-vis the Japanese yen. So keep that in mind. Now, I do want to highlight the Turkish Lira is trading in its upper range, and it hasn't pushed to bigger lows. And so this is something I'm looking at. I'm just paying attention to it. And last week, we had the Canadian dollar on its multi-time frame resistance versus the US dollar. Now, it is tipping a little bit lower here. And keep an eye on this, because if this breaks out, this is going to be super, super important, as this has gotten quite weaker versus the dollar, and we haven't been above this area in quite some time, right? So this is really a super important area for us to break out, because if we do break out, we could be at this 147-ish level. Now, remember, Canadian dollar is very much cued to the price of oil, as that has a lot to do with it. You know, a lot of their GDP is really based on oil. So keep that in mind as this is getting weaker. So I would look to see the price of oil, of how it's doing as well. Now, jumping into commodities, let's take a look at natural gas. A nice surge last week, all the way to above $3. Now it's tipping lower at its resistance level. So this may be a turning point for natural gas here. So this is something to look at. And crude oil back on its lows at $68 a barrel. And we may be breaking out lower, seeing how the Middle East, some of the tension there has been somewhat subsided after, attacking each other there. And that's a whole different, can of worms that pushes the price of oil higher. But it seems like things are going to be calming down. So with that said, so is the price of oil. Now, lastly, let's take a look at gold. Gold just raising just a little bit, but it's consolidating into an upper range. No big thing to really jump at us right now, but it is forming a wedge formation, at least on the micro level. So this may produce itself a nice spike in either direction. So keep an eye on this as well. Now, looking at the U.S. markets, the Dow Jones sold off from its all-time record highs of 43,400 level. Okay, a decent sell-off altogether. I mean, if we look at it, it's over 1,000-point sell-off. But remember, we're looking at the Dow Jones, which is trading in intervals that we haven't seen in a long, long time. I mean, ever, okay? A long, long time. It's 42,000, right? When Joe Biden came into the presidency, it was about 30,000, all right? So keep that in mind. There's inflation to take into account. There's, a little bit of progress in terms of our expansion, but we're kind of in an interesting place when it comes to the economy. And next week, we got elections, so keep that in mind as well. Now, looking at the text did gain to its upper range, okay, to 20,638 as we look at it right here. Now, let's take a look at the individual stocks here, the ones that are jumping out. So Tesla, huge move, okay? It hit that 269, holding on to it. I'd like to see a follow-through. If we break above 269, even 300, okay, that would be my next level. Okay, from 269 up to 300. I know it seems a lot, but that would be my next level. And above 300, that would be also my next level. So keep that in mind as this is still playing itself out. And if we look at NVIDIA, it's holding on to its gains conservatively. There are some people booking their profits here, but it's in a nice upwards momentum. You can't see it on a 4-hour chart, but let's take a look at it on a 1-hour chart. It's a nice upwards trend. There's nothing really holding itself back, waiting for that pullback, waiting for that supportish level, and then bouncing up higher as well. Now, lastly, let's take a look at Bitcoin, because it's been in play at 68,317, okay, which is its upper limit with its range. I'd like to see a breakout. If it does break out, then we can possibly push to that 70K. And that might be a move right before the elections next week. So keep that in mind as well. This is Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.